Our journey begins here in the mining shop. Intense undress as a miner, Brick as a cowboy. Them going to face the zombie apocalypse. This is Dead Rails. The adventure started them dropping into the Goner. They grabbed the supplies to get ready to travel the 80,000 miles to get to Mexico. The cure is being handed out to all citizens so they can make it to Mexico. We are going to experience death, terror, and everything that you expect on a zombie apocalypse to happen in this story. These three boys go through hell, and they will experience everything that you will experience in Dead Rails. First off, Intense Undress grabs everything to prepare for the mission. He grabs newspapers so he can prepare to bring a zombie killer and to save them from the horde. Collins grabs his supplies and buys some stuff so he can get ready for the journey ahead. Fast forward, Intense Undress is not the best at these types of missions, so he usually skips them. But today, July 5th, he will be experiencing the biggest fight of his life, going to Mexico. Collins gets ready to drive off while Intense Undress grabs everything to make the zombie killer. Intense Undress used to be a miner, used to be paid a few bucks an hour, but he didn't mind. It helped put food on the table. When the zombie apocalypse happened, he couldn't do anything. Before that, he used to have a job as driving a train. Same thing for Brick. Brick used to be the town's sheriff, but after that he decided to retire and become a cowboy. And when the zombie apocalypse came, he didn't hide. He wasn't a coward. He fought. So, this journey, you will be seeing him doing most of the heavy lifting, while Intense Undress stays back like a coward. But he does help sometimes. They made their first stop at the abandoned sheriff's place. This used to be accompanied by two sheriffs and 5 police officers, overrun by zombies when civilians came in for refuge. Zombie usually hunts in packs. Predator will do nothing to kill you. Requires any weapon to kill. They easily... Intense Undress finds the rifle, now knowing he can now shoot from farther distance. They don't grab anything else because it doesn't seem useful to them. Intense Undress grabs their sculpture, and Brick just grabs whatever he wants. They pick up Triumph ammo and hope so they don't have to pay for anything. They go back to the train. Intense Undress took a lot of hits in that battle, but at least they got some turret ammo that would help them during the mission to Mexico. Go. Intense Undress checks if Brick is on, and then the journey continues. Wow, wow, wow. Dun, 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 dun. Bow, bow. Da, 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 da. Brick tells Intense Undress when to stop or when to continue. Intense Undress would usually stop for gold, coal. He never stopped for iron, knowing it would be useful. The first bandit camp was found, and that's when they decided to go. Never mind, that's an abandoned camp. I'm such an idiot. But still. Intense Andres grabs the gold and leaves. His goal is to make $1,000 during this trip, because it would help out the team a lot. Now, let's get some backstory. How Brick and Intense Andres met was a coincidence. Intense Andres was looking for supplies so he can survive longer in the zombie apocalypse. And then Brick was over here stealing from an orphanage. But the orphanage was already burnt down. They both ran into each other. But instead of them going their separate ways, they worked together. They stayed in that place for They stayed in that settlement for 2 weeks. It was the safest settlement in the world until news articles came out that Mexico was making it that had a cure. So they were gonna travel 80,000 miles to find it. They hated how most of their friends and family has already turned. They want to help them so they can survive. So they can see another day, not being forcibly controlled. Foggy nights. This is where usually fast zombies spawn. Not recommended to stop during this time. The first settlement of a camp was found, but Intense Andres and Brick wanted to wait until morning so they can go attack. They stayed in there until morning, but it was 12, so they had to wait a little while. Intense Andres and Brick run towards the camp, getting ready to attack. Down, 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 down. Dun 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 dun. Dun down, dun 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 down 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 down. Brown down 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 Intense Andres and Brick did it! But Brick technically did all the work. But still, I told you there was going to be death in this. Brick did most of the work, and Intense Andres got injured in the process. But they were able to get back up, and they found a turret. Didn't need to buy ammo or the turret, saving almost $200. Intense Andres takes back the turret back to the camp. While almost called him Keto. But while Brick can't carry any more items because the sack is full. They go back and the journey will continue to Mexico. Brick keeps bragging to Intense Andres, calling him better at slaying people. But Intense Andres isn't the best at slaying people. So he really just says that you're going to carry him the entire way. But Intense Andres knows he can help Brick out with the minigun, putting it down and then getting ready to continue, making sure Brick's putting the coal in there, making zombies as fuel, checking if Brick is on the boat, sits down and continues his journey to Mexico. Wow, wow, wow. Dun, 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 da, da, da. Bow, bow. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, da, da. Da 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 da. Bum, dun, dun, da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Boom boom. Bam bam bam. Sorry, that was a glitch on my part. Whoa, how did that get here? But who cares? Wolf. Usually hunts in packs. Recommended for gun for killing. Predator. Intense Undress got really damaged by the wolf coming out of nowhere. Intense Undress needs band-aids or healing oil, or whatever that stuff is called. But they still were going to try to raid the town, trying to find if it had any valuables or stuff that can help them during their journey to Mexico. So, they go. While we watched Intense Undress trying to pick up the wolf but can't, then now he goes. Down, 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 down. Dun 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 dun. Dun down, dun 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 down 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 down. Brown down 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 to the land, down to the land, down, 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 down. Down, 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 down to the down, down, down to the down, down, down to the down, down, down. Down, down to the down, down, down to the down, down, down to the down, down, down. Down, 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 down to the down, down, down to the down, down, down to the down, 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 down. Brown down, 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 down to the down, down, down to the down, down to the down, down, down to the down, down, down to the 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 down, down, down to the land, down to the land, down, 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 down. They successfully raided the town. They got everything to help them during their journey, and they got some stuff to sell. They went back to the train before stuff got more ugly. Sorry, that was a mistake on my part. So, the players return back to the train so they can continue. Thankfully, it's not a really bad night tonight. They continue back to the train. Intense Undress enters the train, waits for Brick to get on, and then continues. Brick gets on the train, and then it starts. If I was a little too early there, please forgive me. I'm actually gonna go into, I'm gonna break the fourth wall, but, seriously, this is 2 hours, and, this app that I'm using, it's very glitchy, so, it's really far behind. But it's Lightning Night. Not that much happens in a Lightning Night. Sure, there's a chance that lightning can actually kill you inside the train, but it doesn't happen to these two fellas. But they did it. They made it to their first checkpoint. They're happy, they're proud of themselves, and the first thing Intense Undress does is grabs a crucifix. He definitely could have used that against, vampires, zombies, or any of that stuff, or werewolves, or even Nikola Tesla. But he spends it. It's dangerous being out. He gets the money that he wants, and he continues on. Realize having a bunch of coal in your sack isn't the best idea to be for Intense Undress. So he's first going to sell the outlaw, and then Intense Undress is going to make a plan. A plan that will help him in the future. The future of Dead Rails. Intense Undress starts his plan. He's decided not to actually carry any more coal with him. He's just going to place it down and make sure it doesn't fall off the train. This will help both of them, Intense Undress and Brick, because Intense Undress has the minor class, and the minor class miners, you know what they do? I'm not even gonna say that. Miners, you know what they do? They mine ores. That means they have a pickaxe, making it way faster. They find more coal and they can just put it on there because they can't keep it with them the entire time. And once again, Intense Undress sold the holy water. Could have used it against like anything else, but decided to just waste it. So yeah, sells the outlaw, and then waits for a break to return back to the train, and they continue on their way to Mexico. Only 20,000 miles away from Mexico. Wait, that didn't sound right. wait. Only 70k meters away from Mexico. Intense Undress starts the train, waits for Brick to get on. Intense Undress getting a little annoyed that Brick is taking a while, but these two pals are trying to get to Mexico so they can find the cure and save the people that they loved. Waits for Brick to get on, and then continues. Intense Undress finding an outlaw, thankfully outside, being shot down by one of the turrets from up above. Intense Undress grabs it, and I believe he sells it, but he's happy. He got a horse and some money, which makes Intense Undress very happy, meaning he gained more money and has a better chance of surviving. Intense Undress goes to the sheriff's office and buys himself and sells another outlaw. Intense Undress gets back on the train, waits for Brick, and then they continue their journey to Mexico. Never mind, forget what I was going to say. And now they continue their journey to Mexico in Dead Rails. Wow, wow, wow. Dun, 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 da, da, da. Bow, bow. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, da, da. Da 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 da. Dun 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 da 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 Wow, wow, wow. Dun, 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 da, da, da. Bow, bow. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, da, da. Da 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 da. Dun 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 da 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 Bam, bam, bam. Wow, wow, wow. Dun, 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 da, da, da. Bow, bow. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Once again, it grows dark for our heroes making it to Mexico. Or really not heroes, just travelers making it to Mexico. They try their hardest. Closer and closer and closer. They have to continue. They have to stop. They have to go. They keep going until they reach liberty. Running out of fuel is something that happens sometimes. But you have to resolve it most of the time. Really most of the time. But the travelers continue on. Brick at the back and Tensandros at the front. Brick taking care of a vampire, not even betting an eye. Vampire nights are horrifying, because it can lead into very treacherous commentary. The vampires finally disappear, and they wait until day to go into the town. Thankfully, they already killed the mayor, or the banksmith. We don't know. Many people don't know what they call that guy. But they have to wait until morning. They don't feel like dealing with vampires, werewolves, or whatever shows up at this time of night. The two adventurers wait desperately, because maybe they might not survive. They swing their weapons around, praying that the things outside, and then praying that whatever is outside stays outside. They keep swinging their weapons, keeping each other safe. Tick tock, tick tock. 4 a.m. turns into 5 a.m. Tenson just checks outside to grab the vampires to sell. And now it's day. The travelers are about to enter, once again, into the town. Prayingly, they make it out alive. Down, 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 down. And once again, the travelers burn all the zombies that they had on them and wait until glory. They get on the train and they continue. But once again, I'm fourth person. I'm going to break in the fourth wall because it's very backed up, and I really wish it would stop, but it's not. So in my opinion, I'm just seeing intense interest staring at the fire. Tell me what you see. Just I'm really sorry. This is a 2-hour movie. What do you expect? So I'm just gonna wait for it to come back. Enjoy what you're watching. It's peak. So, finally back in speed. They continue on, and they continue to invade the threats, wherever. Tenson just takes some bad hits, but he already encounters them, experienced by these things before. 4. Mostly noted, if you want to attack zombies, I would really shoot for the head, because that's the most damage. But this is the old update where people well, there used to be auto turrets, so don't expect when you see outlaws shoot at us for the paper to go through, for the bullets to go through the paper, because this is the olden days. And then I just sets out to check for more barriers, almost dying once again. Thankfully not, but Brick was very worried because he did not want to waste another bandage helping his friend. He grabs all the stuff he needs and prepares to go back and help Brick. But daytime is very scarce, because nighttime is not a place where you want to be all alone. So, Intensar just calls for Brick to return to the train. Brick takes a while, but Intensar just knows he'll come back in one piece. But he has a family in Mexico that he wants to get back to, so he's begging for Brick to hurry up. And finding bullets for Brick, he calls Brick once again to come, but Brick is taking a little while. He grabs a turret and prepares to bring it back up there to help out. With another turret with them, it will help them when they have to finally make it when they finally get to 80,000 meters. Because just to let you know, once they get there, it won't be pretty. It will be the biggest battle they have ever encountered, but they know they can handle it because of what they're doing now. They're saying anything, that there's nothing that the world will push in front of them. They will get to Mexico. They will survive. It's Intense Undress and Brick. Because of how long Brick is taken in the town, Intense Undress decides to bring the ammo to the train. But nighttime is getting closer. Thankfully, Brick was able to make it there in time. Intense Undress bringing coal and some oil just to share with Intense Undress some of the stuff he was able to find. Intense Undress places that down, grabs the holy water, and then they continue. Brick decides to drive this time, and they finally left the town. And Intense Undress checks his surroundings to make sure if there's anything valuable outside. But because this movie came way before the new update came out in the olden times when the movie was being created, it would be way safer to go inside, because it would be way harder for outlaws to actually shoot you. With Intense Undress almost being at health, it would be very, very crucial if he goes inside. Almost running out of fuel, you have to put in more fuel so they can continue their way to Mexico. They're running out of fuel fast, meaning they need to find some and pray that wherever they go next will have some. And then they see it. Nikola Tesla's base. They looked shocked, but they know they can't go out there yet. They know they have to wait until it turns day, because it could be dangerous at this time. Brick says he wants to go, but Intense Undress said they should stay in there, just in case if one of them gets hurt. Brick insists, but Intense Undress tries to persuade him. So Brick decides to just move the train a little closer. They have to wait until 5 a.m. and then they can finally go unlock Nikola Tesla because of the valuables he have inside. But this decision can matter life or death, because speedy zombies usually spawn once you activate Nikola Tesla, and you do not want to be alone once that happens, because those zombies might be the last things you ever see before you become one yourself. They wait out there. They wait outside they're really close to 20,000 meters, and they really want to get there before it becomes too late. Tick tock, tick tock. Time is money. 3 a.m. Still waiting for it to become 5 a.m. to finally reach Nikola Tesla. But it's werewolf night, so it would be even more dangerous to go outside. They didn't even know it was werewolf night. But thankfully now they do. So now they're definitely staying inside, but at least they get some money out of this. They start hitting upstairs, because that's where all the werewolves are going up. Tick tock, tick tock. It's about to reach 5 a.m. They patiently wait. It reached 5 a.m. Now they have to wait for the sun to rise and the werewolf to leave, which just happened. 2 werewolves died right above them. Tenzin just grabs their bodies and hangs them onto the train so he can sell those bodies later. That's when Nikola Tesla is now time to spawn in Nikola Tesla. Brick runs up, and Tenzin just gives him some holy water, because he's going to be the one who activates Nikola Tesla. And Tenzin will have the train ready just for Brick to run back to the train. Because staying there could cost both of their lives just to wait for the electrocution in their gun. They grab all the gold balls, everything they need. And Brick says, yeah, Brick needs to take care of some business. So while he's doing that, and Tenzin just gets ready to prepare the body. First goes in his body. Then the head. He grabs the head. Being at the bottom saying it sells for $250, but he didn't even think about selling the head. Grabs the arm, brings it to Nikola Tesla. Then he places it in. Grabs a foot. Grabs one more foot. All that's left is the arm. But Brick is still not finished with his business, making this process take a little longer. And Tenzin just wants to wait for Brick, but it's taking a little while. So he decides to finally arm fully built Nikola Tesla. Now all the scientist zombies are now aware of what's happening, so they're ready to strike. Still waiting for Brick to do his business, he waits patiently, hoping he doesn't turn and talk before Nikola Tesla shows up. He patiently waits for Brick to finally return, but it's taking longer than he expected. He pulls out some guns, pulls out some ammo, even though he doesn't really need these because he doesn't have that type of gun. Still waiting for Isaiah to return, he just starts playing with bullets. Brick. Waiting for Brick to Brick finally returned from his business, and then he's ready to spawn in Nikola Tesla. And Tenzin immediately runs back to the train, getting ready to start it and getting ready to get the F out of there. Intense Andreas was able to make it back to the train in time. And now the thunder has started. And the scientist zombies, well, they're ready to pounce. They run towards the lab. Brick is shooting one by one, knowing it isn't a hard job because he had experience. He keeps shooting. Tetsuo just waits there. It's waiting there for him to show up. Lightning bolts kablammo down, and they immediately leave, knowing that Nikola Tesla might. Now, knowing that they just unlocked Nikola Tesla, Brick decides to stupidly jump up, making him fall off, leading him to fall off. And Tender just has to stop. Hopefully, the turns will help them, but thankfully, but they sadly don't. Brick decided to jump off because he knows he can now go get the electrocutioner. And he waits there. But Intense Andreas is scared from the lightning because he could actually get hurt. So he decides to go back. He decides to just stay up there and wait for him. I don't know what he's doing. Waiting for day and waiting for the sniper to end. Waiting for Nikola Tesla to finally leave. He hears, but Intense Andreas hears the screams. He hears that Brick might be in trouble, so he's getting ready to go until Brick says he's done. He grabbed the electrocutioner gun, and he's now returning. But sadly, Brick lost his horse a long time ago, so it will take a while. While that's happening, Brick Intense Andreas is deciding to go mine some ores and check out the ore rink. But it's a blood moon. But thankfully, he's by the turrets, so he should be fine. So he just mines away, and he brings it back to the train, trying to get there as fast as he could because he doesn't want to die to werewolves. He puts in, and he waits for Brick to return. But he knows it's going to take a while. Intense Andreas waits patiently in the night. Vampire usually Han Solo can teleport. Option to kill with any weapon. Mostly considered with a gun. Predator. And if I already said something about vampire, I'm sorry. Intense on just waiting, looking at his train, being disgusted, seeing vampires climbing up. He becomes terrified. And the vampires are starting to spawn in through the wall, starting to shoot inside his train. Even though if its bullet gets too close to the fire, it can completely blow him up. But because it's not realistic, that won't happen. It's Roblox. What do you expect? Reloads his gun, getting ready for more, waiting for Brick to return. But it's taking a while. Anxiously, he starts playing with the gun, pulling it in, pulling it out, and then he just starts moving around. He starts yelling for Brick's name, but there's no answer. And sometimes I just think something's off, but he can't leave. It's a vampire night, and he doesn't have the proper weapons or tools like Brick does, so he has to wait. It becomes day. Still waiting for Brick to return. He starts jumping up and down, yelling Brick's name, but still no answer. Until Intense just had enough and decides to finally go to the 20,000 mile. Well, there we go. They did it. The second checkpoint. Now, they're only 60,000 miles until Mexico, until freedom. And Intense just grabbed all his stuff, because he has a bunch of stuff with him, and decides to sell it all. He makes a pretty nice amount of cash. And he knows exactly what he's going to be buying with this. He keeps selling and selling and selling. Brick has still not returned. But to pass the time, he's going to be selling and grabbing everything from what he wanted to the train, the werewolves, and the gold nugget he had, and selling all of it. With a bright smile on his face, knowing how much money he'll get out of this, he completely forgets about Brick and starts doing this. Brick finally finished with the electrocutioner, so it's returning now, but it will take a while. Brick finally returning with the electrocutioner, and Intensitors happy to see him. He once again decides to sell the crucifix, even though he knows he could use it. He was able to get a new horse, and he got more money. And Intensitors happy as ever. And somehow, for some reason, Intensitors haven't bought anything yet. It's like he's saving up for something. You'll see what he's saving up for soon. But he needs $200 more. Brick decides to be nice and decides to give him a gun because he doesn't have a really nice one. Only thing he has on him is a rifle. So he takes the gun, thanks to Brick, and then moves on. And if you hear me say Isaiah, I'm sorry. I'm meaning to say Brick. Sorry, Brick. The journey continues. He sells all of his pistols, and now he's ready. He has a shotgun, and he's ready to continue on to Mexico. Brick buys his own stuff, and Intense Undress waits inside the train. Not really inside, but he waits by the train, waiting for Brick to finish. And then they'll continue on to Mexico. Waiting for Brick, and being impatient, he gets on the turret. Continues seeing Brick walking around. Brick went into this see if he could find any good supplies. What he really wants is more protection for the train. But sadly, it seems like he wasn't able to find any. And because Intense are just saving up for something, he's not buying anything either, which really bums out Brick. And Tenzan just impatiently waits for Brick to return. But Brick is taking a little longer than he had just expected. So he continues to sit there and wait. Brick finally returns, and they finally continue their way to Dead Rails. They finally continue their way. Brick tries to leave, but once again forgets that he can't fit for there. And Tessa just tells Brick to just but Brick decides to leave once again. And Tessa just is really starting to get annoyed, waiting for his friend, even though if his friend is taking a really long time. But their teammates decided to help do it together. They came together, and they're gonna finish together. And then they just looks at the gun aisle, knowing how much stuff he could buy, but he's refusing so he can save up for the thing he needs. Last thing, they bought some more turret ammo because they had a second turret. Because they knew it was going to be a while until they came across one. They put it up there, and now they're finally ready to continue on their way to Mexico to get the cure and to survive the madness of the zombie apocalypse. Brick waits for Intense Undress to be ready, and then they go on. And finally, they continue their journey to Mexico. Wow, wow, wow. Dun, 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 dun. Bow, bow. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, da, da. Da, da, da. Da, 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 da. Bum, dun, dun. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Boom, boom, bam, bam, bam. Sorry, I was rudely interrupted. But yeah, they continue waiting. Tick tock, tick tock. Waiting and waiting for it to become day. And then they would once again enter into the town. Tick tock goes the clock. Well, I don't even know if it may be daytime. I don't know. It's just showing me this screen. So yeah. Okay, it's never mind. It's switching now. So tick tock goes the clock. They wait, and they wait. Tick tock. The time goes by. Tick tock. They're getting bored, they're getting annoyed, and they're getting annoyed at how long this is taking. Tick tock. Now we're gonna wait. And then it falls off. Thankfully, Brick had a backup plan, but it barely came into use. For somehow, the page fell off. And they lost it because it fell into the furnace. Now they need something else to replace it, but they were going to have to deal with that later. But at the moment, they were going to, once again, attack a town. And Tense Undress wants to shoot at him, but decides not to waste turret ammo, so he moves up. Brick is already in the defense lines, and Tense Undress is about to jump. Tense Undress gets on the turret and shoots as many as he can, but he's taking a little while. Misses the shots. Continually misses the shots. And then he decides to shoot the ones over there, but he's mostly missing the shots. And Tense Undress is getting a little fed up because he keeps missing, so he starts spamming it. But still many shots get wasted. He gets annoyed, and then he just gets off. He pulls out his shotgun and gets ready. Brick enters the bank, and Tense Undress sees he's getting followed, so he shoots the zombie in the face. He runs in. Brick has the bank code, and he's waiting for Brick to put it in. And I just found something that may be able to help with the page. So they all run in, and they grab bonds, gold, and iron. And Tense Undress mostly grabs the gold, but really doesn't had to grab the iron because those are leftovers. He runs out, and the Tense Undress fights off the horde. While Brick makes the zombies chase him. And then Brick decides to lead the zombies away so Tense Undress can go for the building. But some of them lose aggro and go for Tense Undress. Brick knows that Tense Undress can deal with this because he's dealt with way worse foes. So he knows it's going to be okay. We praise because he doesn't want to waste a bandage on him. Tense Undress just bores in, takes a painting, and takes a piece of coal. Where he really wants to go is two places. He wants to go to the church because that can have big money in it. But he decides to kill some zombies because they might be in the way. Brick returns and he brings a little bit of zombies with him, killing. Tenzin just wants to fight off the zombies with his pickaxe, but knowing it's not doing that much damage as Brick's hatchet. But Tenzin just shrugs it off and goes to the church. Brick comes back out with armor, and then Tenzin just for some reason decides to run into the sheriff's office, finding anything that's Brick left behind. But he realizes nothing was in there, so he decides to leave once again. He meets up back with Brick, and then he goes to the church. Tenzin is eager to get what's inside the church, but he decides to check a few more houses, or checks if there's any zombies in those houses. He gets nearer to the church, and then he decides to go into one of the houses. Realizing there is nothing inside, he leaves once again. Brick. He enters into the church. He finds barely not that much stuff. He gets sneak attacked by a zombie, but he was able to take it off with ease. He finds some holy water and some crucifixes. He jumps on one of the chairs and once again leaves the church. They technically already looted the entire place, all the valuables. So they decided to return right back to the train. When Tenzin just wants to. Brick, he's just moving around. He's just doing whatever he dilly-dally wants. So, decide to kill a few more zombies that come towards him. Tenzin just feels a little damage, but he knows he'll be okay. Tenzin just looks, grabs another painting, even though he just grabbed one. A zombie comes out of nowhere, almost killing Tenzin, but thankfully he was able to deal with it before it's too late. Brick heard the commotion and just decided to let him deal with it on his own. Tenzin just a little nervous because of what happened. He makes sure to keep everything okay, just in case another zombie decides to come out of nowhere. Tenzin just moves back and tries to place the painting inside the train. He tries his best, but he doesn't see a welt. But because he's an idiot and he has this shotgun right there in his hand, he couldn't welt it. But he did it, but he didn't know if it would actually work. He tries to leave, but it wasn't working. Brick decides to start to leave him. Okay, I'm breaking the fourth wall. That was actually kind of funny. And then Brick continues the journey to the next checkpoint. For some reason, Brick decides to stop and sees the zombies chasing him, but Brick decided there was no reason to waste time on that and decided to go back. But, never mind. He realized that he tried to feed some wolves, that's why. But it started to get dark, and Tenzin didn't want to waste that much time out here. And so he did the wolves, but the wolves decided to run into the zombie horde. So Tenzin really did not want to deal with that, so they just decided to leave their wolves. Well, Brick didn't want to, but Tenzin wanted to. But he just decided to wait for Brick. He kept yelling for Brick to go back into the train. Brick didn't want to, but at the end of the day, Brick was forced to. But because of how long Brick was taking, he didn't want to wait. But a fast zombie immediately jumped into the train, ambushing Brick. But he took care of it with ease. So they decided to continue until they reached the next checkpoint. For some reason, Tenzin decides to stop and tells Brick to get inside the train because it could be dangerous out there. And also Tenzin realized that the thing isn't that safe anymore. And then Tenzin dies to natural causes. He gets too overwhelmed, and Brick stays up there watching how his friend died in front of his eyes. He calls Tenzin an idiot and has to waste one of his bandages. And Tenzin says sorry and tries to find his rifle so he can do it once more. But they ran out of fuel, so they're stuck until daytime. And Tenzin once again got swarmed. He's back at half, and now he's just staying up there until the night is over. Sees many fast zombies spawning in and running towards the train. And Tensor just started to get nervous, and then he gets sneak attacked once again. He wants to get the train moving, but because he doesn't want any of his stuff to get left behind, he doesn't want to leave. But once again, Tensor is at the verge of death. And Brick is getting annoyed, saying he doesn't want to waste another bandages for him being stupid. So he wants Tensor to be smart, or he's gonna weld his ass to the train. And Tensor looks for his rifle so he can grab looks for his shotgun. He looks for his shotgun so he can get all the bullets back, but he just can't find it. He has to wait until day. But thankfully he was able to pick up his pickaxe, and it was turning daytime. So he decided to go look for his shotgun. He got back his gold, and got back his olive oil. Holy water. He looked for a shotgun, but the reason why Brick yelled to stop is because he saw the Sterling. The Sterling had a humongous mine shaft that could find gold, diamonds, and a bunch of rare ores. But it was abandoned because of the zombie apocalypse. Brick wanted to go inside, but Tensor was hesitant because he knew it wouldn't be good. But Tensor decides to deal with it, turn into a man, and decides to go for it. This would be one of the biggest mistakes they would ever make, because this almost ended the entire run. This almost ended the entire Dead Rails run. So because how far away he was, he didn't want to make the walk. But he knew Brick was going to leave without him. But he wanted to join. So he started to grab all his stuff, and then he tried to find a horse, but he couldn't. So he jumped off and ran to the Sterling house, to the town of Sterling. Hopefully before dark came. But he realized he forgot something, so he had to run back. Jumped on top and realized he had a horse at the front of. He realized that one of the outlaws' horses gone onto the train. So he decided to just take it with him and just drive into victory, and just go to the Sterling house. And just to let you know, this would be the team's biggest mistake, and this would lead into almost ending the Dead Rails run. Brick still hasn't entered into the mine. Brick is still getting all the stuff to enter into the mine. He has all the stuff and tells Tensor to get back. He's about to blow the mine sky high. Tells Tensor to get ready, and they go for it. And Tensor is obviously frightened because he heard some stories about this place once, but he knew that there could be valuables in there that could help him with the journey. So he decided to just keep quiet and just get back. Once that happened, he decided to leave his horse close to the entrance just in case he needed to escape. And then he pulled out his shotgun. And this is where it all goes down. It starts out welly. It starts out good. And then that's when that thing showed up. And Tensor just shot it, and then boom, he gets exploded. And Tensor almost died from that explosion, but thankfully he lived on. But he could barely move. Brick was out of bandages, so Tensor had to just watch. This is where everything almost went wrong for Brick. Brick was completely surrounded, and Tensor could do nothing to help. And then he heard a loud kaboom. Praying that Brick was fine, he couldn't still move. He tried to jump, but he couldn't. He saw one of those TNT zombies. It wasn't the one that he killed, but it was running towards Brick. He was worried, so Tensor just tried to jump into Brick so he can see if Brick would be okay. But he continued seeing more and more of these skeletons and zombies running towards Brick. He was horrified, hopefully praying that this wouldn't end here because of how close they were to Mexico. Tensor just tried to jump. He couldn't get closer. He kept yelling for Brick to come help him, but Brick knew there's nothing he could have done to help because he was out of bandages. He continued seeing many things get shot. But once again, he got another TNT zombie came out of nowhere and exploded him. Hopefully Brick was alright, but he was a little too far away for him to see. He continued trying to jump the Brick, but he couldn't. He was continually getting chased until once again, he saw another TNT zombie running towards him, but he couldn't see the action. And then he knew Brick would be okay because he didn't see his body go flying. But more of them were coming. But he knew he once again shot that thing, and then kaboom! Thankfully, Brick was still alright. Intense just tried to jump over to him and continued yelling Brick's name, but Brick knew there was no reason to carry him. We would carry him once everything was well until they get to the next checkpoint. Intense just was annoyed, but understanded because of the situation. He got himself into this. He could have asked Brick for snake oil because he had some. He could have asked for it. He might have not even died from that explosion if he just asked for it. But no, he was an idiot and just decided to wait it out. This was one of his biggest mistakes, and he regrets it to this day. Everything was blown up, and then Tenzin just continues to yell for Brick. So Brick decides to finally be nice and drag him inside the cave entrance. But that's when it starts to get dark. Brick tries to get the mask completely off of the platform and tries to replace it with a gold bar, but he missed. Brick knew what was coming this way. He grabbed it and was preparing for the fight of his life. He pulled out his shotgun and he pulled out his rifle and prepared for what was coming. 3 werewolves ran right at him. Brick was destined for death. He was so close to dying, but thankfully he didn't. He drank a snake oil and he was okay. But that really destroyed his monitor. And because of all of that what just happened, the worst thing that could ever happen to Intense Undress just happened right in front of him. Brick looks at him, knowing that he doesn't have that much time left. He stares at him. And then it's gonna happen soon. Brick disconnects. Intense Undress' heart completely drops, knowing that this entire reason, the 2 brothers, the 2 people who wanted to make it... Okay, I was interrupted again. But he didn't want this entire thing to be wasted to get to Mexico. So we just took off the thing, and now we're gonna show you the thing where Brick and they got disconnected. So yeah, just to let you know, check out this guy. You probably know this guy. And then so the stuff. And then once Brick got back into the server, once Brick got into the server, he was able to get the sword and the mask because his mask was in there. Okay, that's how much those things cost. And yeah, so we're gonna be going back to the actual movie. Like, I know I was talking very low at that part, but Brick was finally able to return back to the server, and now we're heading to the next checkpoint. Brick did lose the electrocutioner when he returned, because it didn't save any of that stuff. Most likely in the newest update, it did save that, but Brick returned, and now we're going back in, the third person. I don't know what people... First person? I don't know what people call that. So, Brick decides Brick decides to check out a house, see if there's any bandages in there. While Intense Undress just stays in the burning building. Brick decides to kill some guys that were right outside. But Intense Undress continues to stay inside the burning furnace. Flames, annoyances, He just waits for Brick to return. Then just stuck inside the furnace, begging to be let out, but Brick just watching him completely sob, asking to be let out, begging to be let out, demanded to be let out, as you will. Okay, there was no reason for that, but still. Tense Undressed, annoyed and appalled at Brick for just putting him in there, not giving him a front side view of what was happening outside, no idea what Brick was doing outside. Even when I was playing the game as Intense Undressed, I didn't even know what Brick was even doing outside. The only thing I heard him was just shooting and just gunfire. So I just sat there waiting for Brick to respond. Tick tock, goes the clock. Still waiting for Brick to return. But nonetheless, nothing. Brick took a long time to return. Tick tock. Intense Undressed waited for Brick to return, but he was taking longer than he was expected. That's when Intense Undressed decided to yell out for Brick's name. But Brick was finally decided to return, got back on the train, and continued his way to Mexico. But Brick got stuck and decided to leave once again. And Intense Undressed continued yelling his name, telling him to just drive and just help him. But Brick did nothing. Thankfully, Brick was able to find a unicorn. And then they continued. And Intense Undressed kept telling Brick, you could sell that unicorn for a fortune. But he had to sadly kill the unicorn. But Intense Undressed was okay. He knew that you could still get a lot of money from that. So they decided to continue to the next checkpoint. In 2,000 miles, they would be halfway into... Never mind. They will be almost half of the way into Mexico. And Intense Undressed could see the checkpoint in his eyes. And Intense Undressed could see the checkpoint right in front of him. And then he finally was here. Brick got up and left. Tick tock. And Intense Undressed waited. And then Intense Undressed saw Brick taking to go sell, for some reason, the unicorn to that place. Brick continually, Intense Undressed got annoyed, yelled Brick's name to tell him to go get him a bandage. But nope. That's when Brick decided to stop being a jerk and decided to go get Intense Undressed a bandage. Intense Undressed sat there, waiting for Brick to finally return with his bandage, and for him to finally be able to move again. But yet alas, he tried to get out, but he was still stuck in the furnace. That's when Brick finally decided to help Intense Undressed. Intense Undressed was thrilled, happy that he could finally move again after having to stand still for a long time. Returned back with him, and then he proceeded to sell. But he didn't want to sell. Thankfully, Brick decided to grab his gold bars, so he decided to sell these things. Knowing that Brick and Intense Undressed knew that he finally reached his goal, $1,000. Now he could buy whatever he wanted. But there was one thing he wanted to do with the unicorn. But when that flash of lightning happened, Intense Undressed knew it. The unicorn has come back to life. He brought the saddle to the unicorn, and he knew what was about to happen. And Intense Undressed jumped with joy, knowing that he was finally going to be able to get something he thought he would never be able to get. He saw the unicorn. He decided to put on the saddle and jumped on, and then there it was. He got the unicorn badge. But that's when Brick wanted to kill the unicorn. And then Intense Undressed said, why? What was the point of killing the unicorn? We could sell it for way more. And then he realized that the mask was on the unicorn, knowing what would happen. So, Intense Undressed didn't want to, but he was forced. Brick decided to bring the unicorn by the sell area and Tenzin just waited, praying that the thing, wanting the thing not to die, but yet alas, it was going to. Instead of seeing the poor creature die in front of his eyes, it decided to just buy itself a rifle. And finally, get one of the most powerful guns in the game. For some reason, Brick still haven't killed the creature, and Tenzin just wanted him just to kill it real quick, so he can get the money, or Brick can get the money, or they can split the money. He didn't really care. He just wanted the money from the unicorn. And then, how long he was taking, it decided to kill it itself. It was sad. It was painful to do that, because he decided it was brought back to life just to be killed once more. And Tenzin just bought some more rifle ammo and was preparing for the long and treacherous journey into Mexico. So they pack their gear up, and Tenzin just gets some more ammo, and then he leaves the gunsmith. But he decides to make a turnaround and buy more ammo. You can never have too much ammo. Like, seriously. You can never have too much ammo. Because if you have ammo, this just technically becomes a walk in the park. And Tenzin just returns to the general store and looks for a specific thing he wants. Looks around, tries to find it, and then there it is, armor. Because he has $1,000, he can buy anything he wants. So he decides to buy armor, a pickaxe, and a bunch of stuff that will help him in the future. So he buys it all. Places it on, leaves the general store, and then goes back to get more ammo. The guy has $1,000. What do you expect him to waste it on? Food? Heck no. More ammo. This makes it completely easier for the zombies to die. And he decides to be nice and buy some ammo for Brick. Never mind, he steals it for himself. Tenzin is a real game player. Why the hell did I add that to the script? Okay. So, they decide to go back to the train. Tenzin is ready, and he yells for Brick to get ready as well. But Brick is buying some more stuff. And Tenzin is waiting for Brick to return. But he's taking a little while. That's when Tenzin decides to be nice to him and give him a plate of armor. 2 plates of armor. But he realizes that Brick already bought some, so he decided to buy it himself. Now they're perfect. They can get to Mexico. Oh wait, Brick needs to get some stuff from the doctor. Tenzin just decides to buy some stuff as well. Well, because he need bandages. Never can go bad with bandages. Bandages can help you in crisis. And this is what this is, a crisis. So they buy more bandages, and Tenzin just heads back to the boat, heads back to the train, tells Brick to drive, and then they're once again on their way to Mexico. Oh, come on. And Tenzin just decides to leave once again to go get coal. Because they somehow, the entire time, did not realize that they needed coal to actually make it to Mexico. So Tenzin just has to buy a shoot ton of coal and waste a bunch of money that he just earned. Dang. I think I knew back in the 1800s stuff was cheaper, but dang, did inflation return back? Just inflation decided to be in this timeline. Wait, that didn't sound right. Forget it. But now they have a bunch of coal, and now they can actually make it halfway to Mexico, because they're not halfway to Mexico. I think they're about to reach halfway. I don't know. And Tenzin just decided to drop some of these, decides to weld them to the train. Sorry, I got interrupted. Decide to weld the coal into the train, and then they finally continue their journey to Mexico. Wow, wow, wow. Dun, 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 da, da, da. Bow, bow. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Da 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 bum dun dun da 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 boom boom bam bam bum wow 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 dun 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 da 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 bow bow da 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 dun 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 da 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 boom boom bam bam bum wow 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 dun 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 da 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 bow bow da 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 dun 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 da 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 Sorry. We had to finish the song there. So, that's when they see the castle. They know they have to raid it because they can get a bunch of stuff from that. But it could cost them their lives. So they had to think carefully and smartly because this is one of the hardest things to raid. And since I just saw that the castle was one of the most haunted places in the Wild West, I think that's what they said back in the 1800s. But Brick wanted to go in now, but Intensandra told him to wait, saying, "We have to wait until morning because they can get overrun by werewolves and fast zombies." So they waited there. Tick tock, tick tock. They weren't defending themselves because there really wasn't that much to do. 2 a.m. 3 more hours left. Brick got annoyed. He was wondering when this was when it was going to be 5 a.m. He wanted to raid this place so badly. But Intensandra just told him, we can't be wasting bandages like this, so we have to save as much supplies as we possibly can. Because of how bored Brick is getting, he starts swinging his jade sword around and around just to entertain himself. Because there's really nothing attacking their train. This thing is protected, and nothing and So he decides to start swinging his jade sword around so they can get the zombies on their side. But Intense Undress fell out the train. So, what happened here? Intense Undress got scared. He got spooked by something behind him. And then he jumped out the train. Getting overrun by zombies, getting, once again, himself killed. Almost a few minutes ago saying, oh, you shouldn't be wasting bandages like this. And immediately wasted a bandage just because of his dumb action. And Temperature starts telling Brick to help him, but Brick wants to get some of these zombies on his side, so he's dealing with that. Thankfully, a werewolf comes down and is now on their side, and Brick is still up there. And Temperature starts jumping around, yelling his name, but Brick isn't leaving. Brick is stuck inside the train. So the only way Brick can get out is to just brutally kill the zombies inside his train, of course. He starts stabbing after stabbing after stabbing. A werewolf is trying to get inside the train, but it's just giving up. Then just keeps jumping, yelling for Brick to come help him, but Brick just sits there and does nothing. Brick finally decides to leave, shoot down the werewolf, and then make the werewolf come back on the side, but the werewolf senses something else, so he decides to run to a different direction. Brick decides to heal Intense Undress, and Intense Undress is back in action. Then just grabs his rifle, just wants to put the werewolf in the sack, but noticing he can't, he decides to grab his rifle, and grab the ammo he's dropped. Brick now, it knows it's daytime, but they're wasting valuable time because of Intense Undress's dumb mistake. Brick is telling him to hurry up, but Intense Undress is saying, calm down, man, this isn't the end of the world. Brick is getting annoyed and fed up with Intense Undress taking forever, so he just decides to start going on without him. Sadly, the wolf died in the skirmish. Sadly, the horse died in the entire raid. So, they decide to run. Brick decided to start it early and started the fight in the castle. The werewolf that's on their side goes in, starts attacking, killed the vampire. The vampire is now on their side. Many of these start to show up, and Brick starts to try to get many on his team, and Intense Undress just waits at the entrance, scared, praying that he won't die from this. Brick is ready, having his jade sword out. And then Intense Undress decides to call in the horde. That's when a bunch of werewolves starts running at the werewolf on his side. Almost 5 werewolves is now surrounding the werewolf. Intense Undress starts standing back, and for some reason, Brick decides to just drop the mask on the floor. Intense Undress didn't realize how much ammo he had left, so he ran out, and he got swarmed by two of the most powerful mobs. Oh yeah, and I haven't done this one yet. A vampire predator usually can teleport. I don't know if it can teleport anymore in the newest update, but it can teleport. Usually hunts alone. Mostly requires a gun to kill. That's when Intense Undress is close to death. And then he starts telling Brick to hand him some snake oil. But Brick decides to keep everything for himself because he knows he's a more valuable asset to the team. Which Intense Undress kind of understands, mostly. Intense Undress is nervous. He wants to get the mask, but he knows he can get killed. So he starts and then a werewolf comes out of nowhere, attacks Brick, and Brick immediately drinks the olive oil, and Intense Undress dies again because he was low in health. Brick is somehow confused of how he died, and then Brick starts yelling at him, telling him he should have gave him the snake oil a long time ago. And Brick is getting swarmed and losing a bunch of health. Intense Undress is once again stranded right in front of the castle. But thankfully, the werewolves are more distracted on other things and mostly focused on Brick because he's the reason why they're still alive. And then just starts yelling for Brick, but can't see him anywhere until he just comes out of the rock. And then once again, Intense Undress is healed. Then just gets up, yells at Brick for not giving him all of snake oil, but decides to go on his merry way and grab everything he needs to once again go attack. And Intense Undress sees Brick getting demolished by wolves, but decides to do nothing. The same thing he did for Brick, he's going to do the exact same thing. Same thing he did to him, he's going to do the exact same thing to Brick. So, Brick is dead. I believe this is like Brick's first time ever dying. So, Intense Undress decides to come and help him. But now, they're on their last bandage. They cannot die anymore. They're out of olive oil. They have to play smart. If they die here, they're going to have to wait until the next checkpoint, which Intense Undress does not want to deal with again because he's starting to have flashbacks of Jane. Of town of Sterling. Intense Undress waits, and now they're going to wait until the morning for them to go inside the mansion. The castle. And Brick wants to go in now. And Intense Undress, he is definitely close to dead. And Intense Undress says, we can come back in the morning. So they decide once again, go back. Intense Undress is worried that lightning can strike him, even though it's a rare possibility. He still doesn't want to take any chances. He doesn't want to die this far in. So he giddies up. So he decides to giddy up and get back to the train as fast as possible because he does not want to die out here. He wonders where Brick is. But because the horse is useless to him now, he decides to unweld the horse. He sees two zombies in there, so he just decides to kill them because there's no reason to have these in here. But he first decides to stab them so he doesn't waste ammo, but he realizes it's not doing anything, so he has to waste some ammo just to kill them. But he's going to do that later because he's not dealing with that at the moment. Intense Undress is waiting for Brick to return, but now he realized that Brick just decided to go back to the castle. So Intense Undress brings up his courage and decides to go back, knowing that his life could be on the line if he gets swarmed by at least 2 werewolves. But he's going to deal with it. But first thing, he's getting a little annoyed about the zombie being in there. He sees some ammo, and he needs to get it. So he's trying to get to the other side, even though he could walk around, but decides to go this way. He grabs the ammo, and then he decides, for some reason, could go the longer way, so he decides to do that this time. He gets back on the train. He wants to see on what time it is, and then he decides to now finally go back to the castle. Pulls out his rifle and prepares for the worst, knowing if he gets swarmed, he will lose his life. Brick was perfectly fine. Even though he lost a bunch of health, he still said he can keep going, even though they're out of bandages. So, even though there's still many characters in there, he decides to unleash a werewolf so he can go attack almost 10 werewolves in there. And Intense Undress is nervous, knowing once that werewolf dies, they might get completely swarmed. So Brick starts shooting in there, and Intense Undress gets closer and starts shooting as well, hopefully praying that they're not hitting the wrong guy. Why? Kabam! And then it goes silent. The werewolf isn't moving anymore, which means the castle has been officially raided. They have completely raided the entire castle. And Intense Undress is overjoyed, knowing that they're gonna get some big loot from this. He starts grabbing all the bonds he can. He decides to let Brick decides to grab everything in there. He runs to the other place so we can see if he can get more. He decides to take all the golden plates for himself. Brick starts telling him, you see, it wasn't that hard. And then Intense Undress is really happy for bringing him along. long, and Tensandress grabs more bonds, and he decides to go check upstairs. And then there it is, the vampire knife. But he decides to get the bonds before Brick comes upstairs. And then he decides, but first he wants to go check out the other place. He looks at the werewolf that was thankfully able to kill all the allies, but he realized that Brick already looted the entire place. Look around to see if Brick left or anything for him. He really is regretting for not grabbing those gold bars. But Brick decides to be nice and give him a gold bar, which Tensandress is really appreciative of. But he decides to grab the vampire knife, and he starts to grab some paintings, and then he grabs the vampire knife, and then victory is his. Now, one more thing he had to do, and that thing was to make it to the end. Brick decides to kill the vampire, kill the werewolf, and then Tensandress decides to just bring back a werewolf so he can sell it. And Tensandress knows they're going to be loaded at the end of this. He decides to drop them and just grab another werewolf that was out here. And they go back to the train. He almost forgot his helmet, which many of you guys watching this movie might have been yelling that he almost forgot the helmet, but Tensandress isn't that stupid. They go back to the train. And now, once they hit that checkpoint, they're going to be officially halfway to Mexico. Tensandress welds the werewolf. Believe he does. Tensandress decides to weld the werewolf to... He's not going to weld the werewolf. He's going to hold on to the werewolf, even though it would have been a better idea to weld it. He's holding it on like how you hold on to when you put your hand outside, when you pull down your window and put your hand outside when the wind is, forget my example. And Tensandress immediately looks for the trading post. He puts in the werewolf, gets $20, and knowing he's gonna get rich from what he just did. He starts selling as much as everything he could, as much as he can. About to reach 500 once more. But now, this checkpoint, this base, whatever you call this place, now they're finally halfway to Mexico. Tensandress tells Brick the news, and Brick isn't that excited, but that's when Tensandress finally decides to kill the zombie that was in there. And then, once again, you know what Tensandress would want to do. He would want to buy more ammo. But Tensandress right now is waiting for Brick to do his stuff in there, and then he's just going to check out more stuff. He knows that if they... And Tensandress is starting to get a little nervous, because he knows that if they die here, if they lose here, it would have been all for nothing. And Tensandress is thinking of many stuff is in his head, but what he really wants is ammo. So he goes into the gun store and buys as much rifle ammo as he possibly can.
I didn't tell you. You going to be.
Okay, sorry that you had to hear that, but still. Tensandress is overjoyed, knowing how much money he has. And Tensandress wants to wait until it becomes daytime, so they